So this is 4.1, part 2. You guys should know how to do these by now. These are the ones I want you to do, and we'll come back and look at some of these here. I do want you to do number 9.
6, 7. Oh, here.
Number 10. I should draw a dividing line here.
Bailey's not glue sticks.
Group 3 erase points. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I do want you to do 20. Two, 23, 24, 25, and 26.
20, 22, 24, 25, 26.
Yeah.
Wait, can I scroll up and see what they did?
Okay, let's look at number 9 for a second here. Let me pull a stick. Mr. Orweller, number 9 says, describe and correct the error in finding the area of the parallelogram. And so here's what they wrote. So they put the area as, it'd be 8 times 15, which is 120 meters squared. They've made a mistake in figuring out the area of this parallelogram. So what I simply want you to do is to write in a sentence or two for number 9 what that mistake is that they made.
So basically, it's height, length times width, and...
Well, that's for a square or a rectangle. For a parallelogram, remember area equals, it would be base times height. So you can see, if you look carefully here, the two numbers that they multiplied were 8 and 15, so they multiplied these two numbers together. So those were not the correct numbers to multiply by. So again, I want you to figure out what that mistake is. So you could verbalize it. What would you say?
I think it would be 15 times 13.
No, good try. That would be a mistake. All right. Miss Censor, do you have any idea what the two numbers would be that you would multiply together? And you guys all should have is your book open, hon? You guys should all have your books open, because I know, especially for those that sit in the back, it's kind of hard to see these. So we're up to 30 points here. Miss Gossage. Miss Scott. So 30, 40, 50 points we're up to. Mr. Rainbow. Mr. Williams, 60 points.
So you would multiply 8 and I don't know what the second one is.
Okay. 70 points. Miss Werner.
8 and
8 and 13, because it wasn't 8 and 15, so, and I already told Mr. Orweller it was not 15 and 13, so that leaves only one choice, and Miss Werner got it for those points. 8 times 13, okay? So the 13, this is the height.
3.
And the 8 is the base. All right, so you put that in your own words for number 9. Number 10, it says a ceramic tile is in the shape of a parallelogram. It has a base of 4 inches and a height of 1.5 inches. What is the area of this tile? You guys should be able to do that. They give you the dimensions right there, base times height. I do want you to do number 11, 12, and 13. Notice those are on a grid, all three of those. So your answer for 11, 12, and 13 is going to be something units. I'm going to pull a stick here. Mr. McCourt's not here. Mr. Leboutier, something units what? What's that? No. Miss Ryan, 20 points. 30 points, Miss Harley. Squared, something units squared. That's just how you would write it down. If the answer is 17, you would put 17 units squared. Okay, that's for number, or numbers, I should say, 11, 12, and 13. Okay? Now, remember when you're figuring out the height of these figures, I mean, I'm looking at, let's say, number 13, for example. We could look at this as the base right here, and I could even label that the base. And so we need to figure out the height. And so the height would be, let's see here, I'll do it this way. This would be the height, and you would just simply count out the number of units. Okay? So remember, area for a parallelogram is simply base times height. Okay, I also want you guys to do 14, 15, and 16. And we did some problems recently that were similar to these, except we were talking about squares. And I had let's say a rectangle, and I gave you the dimensions, and let's say there was a smaller one inside, and let's say the outside dimensions, let's say this was 7 feet, and this was 12 feet, and then the dimensions for the smaller one, let's say this was, this is 2 feet, and this was, let's say, 4 feet. And what I explained, and I think most of you understood it, is that the first thing you would have to do is figure out the area of the large object. In other words, the entire area of this square, or rectangle, I should say. Okay? And then you're going to figure out the area of the smaller one. And then finally, what you would do is subtract the difference. And you're doing the same thing with 14, 15, and 16. You're figuring out the area of the parallelogram, and then you're subtracting the difference of the smaller one, and they give you the area of the smaller one in each one. Questions on that? Yeah, Mr. Orwell.
Could there ever, are we soon be able to get into a square into a square into a square?
Sure, you could do something like that. I mean, there could be problems like that. Here's a rectangle, and here's another rectangle, and then here's another one. And then each one would be a different color. Okay? Or they might label it. They might say this is one, whoops. This would be 1, and this would be 2, and this would be 3. And they would give you the dimensions of each one, and subtract 3 from 2, what's the area? Or subtract 2 from 1, okay?
Could 2 be blank and then 3 be in the center? And then just floating?
Yeah, you could, as long as they give you the dimensions. Sure. Okay. All right. Then I want you to do 20, and we did some problems like this last week. Let me give you another example. If I think of it this way, if I put a question mark here and I put 3x plus 3. Okay, now I'll take that back here. Let me think about another way to do this. All right, how about plus 5? And I put equals. Um, $30x plus 50. And I wanted you to find out the answer to what's supposed to be on the outside of the parentheses, Miss Russell. That's what you're doing in these kinds of problems. You're looking at what's missing, and you look at what they give you. So, in this problem right here, we don't know what's supposed to be on the outside of the parentheses, but we do know that whatever it is, if I multiply it by 3x, I get 30x. What do you think that would be, Miss Russell?
10.
Yeah. And this is a pretty easy example I gave you here. It would be 10. So 10 times 3x is 30x, and 10 times 5 is 50. Well, in number 20, you've got a blank square here, and here, and here. And you look at the information they gave you, and you try to figure out what each one would be. And then for 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, you guys should be able to do those. Questions about this, anybody? Okay. So starting with number 9, those are the ones that I want you to do. Let me write these down here really quick. I've got 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 9 through 16. And then
20 through 26.
20, it'd be just 20, and then starting with 22. Comma, and then 22 through 26. All right, let me end this recording here. Stop video.